Quid pro quo. What are whistleblowers and more bank documents now showing alleging bribery there and more? What do you say? What do you see?
Well, again, that is a difficult thing to prove.
I know the Republicans said that the smoking gun were these financial records that you were able to subpoena and got your hands on. They show that some of the president's relatives were paid more than $10 million from foreign sources between 2015 and 2017. And your party, the Republican investigators, say that that's proof of influence peddling by Hunter and James. But that's just your suggestion. You don't actually have any facts to that point. You've got some circumstantial evidence. And the other thing is, of all those names, the one person who didn't profit is there's no evidence that Joe Biden did anything illegally.
Yeah, not at all. That's just a few moments from Fox News. And also the Wall Street Journal editorial yesterday, the Biden family business. You know, we always hear Biden crime family, the Biden this, the Biden that. Wall Street Journal editorial page had the Biden family business. They went through how members of Joe Biden's family made money. This is all very shocking, I guess, to some people on Fox News and some people on the Trump right, because, of course, this is something that Donald Trump and his family would never do, other than $2-3 billion here or there. But they did it out of office, just like the Bidens did this out of office. But again, talk about the scale of what they're talking about, the scale of what happened there. This sounds like, of course, what happened with the Clintons and all the investigations into the Clinton Foundation. And we heard about that for years and years and years. And at the end of the day, all much ado about nothing. This is the end of the Wall Street Journal editorial page, which has gone after the Hunter Biden issue very strongly. They conclude by saying there is not a smoking gun here, but there's smoke. So keep investigating. I mean, come on. And this is so much like the Durham investigation. And I have people who are call me every day, right? Well, call me every day. Well, call me on January the 7th. Oh, yeah, well, you know, that thing that happened at the Capitol yesterday was bad, but why won't the press talk about Hunter Biden's laptop? Wait, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Tell me about what. Talk about the illegalities. And then you say to him, well, if Hunter did something wrong, he should go to jail. That's how America works. And when he goes to jail, you'll notice Democrats, they won't try to undermine the American judicial system. They'll go, OK, well, if you can't do the time, then don't do the crime. But for some reason, there's a different standard with Republicans. For some reason, they yell, lock them up, lock everybody up, lock their political opponents up, except don't lock Donald Trump and his family up when what they do is significantly worse. But anyway, again, Wall Street Journal editorial page concludes in their Biden family business editorial, there is not a smoking gun. We heard Steve Doocy say the same thing. There's no smoking gun, and nothing with Joe Biden here either. But again, they keep generating this. Oh, yeah, one other thing, too, that's very important for these anti-Biden people. I don't know if you knew this or not. Joe Biden fell off a bike. He did. No, Donald Trump tried to overthrow American democracy, but Joe Biden fell off a bike. And when Joe Biden's tired, sometimes, you know, he stuttered his entire life. Sometimes his words kind of get slurred together. He doesn't do really well. But Donald Trump, he tried to overthrow American democracy and just got found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman and said in the deposition that people like him have had the right to do that for, quote, millions of years. So there you go. Gene, all of this nonsense from Durham, who just absolutely, a guy that people used to respect, who just absolutely humiliated himself, trying to prove that the FBI was corrupt, ended up humiliating. Again, one more, we're going to own the libs, turning into a cell phone, a self-own. This brings us, though, to your latest column, and you write this in part. With the leading candidate for the 2024 GOP presidential nomination, Donald Trump facing felony charges in Manhattan, a civil verdict holding him responsible for sexual abuse, and the possibility of soon being hit with more state and federal charges. Republicans would love to be able to tar Biden with at least an appearance of illegality. So far, however, Biden has had every right to perform the dirt off your shoulder gesture that Barack Obama borrowed from Jay-Z. The GOP has come up with a whole lot of nothing. We saw that on Fox News. And again, Gene, we saw it in the Wall Street Journal editorial that is written extensively about Joe Biden, the Hunter Biden laptop, even after this Comer investigation that was going to be so devastating to the Biden, quote, crime family. They say there's no smoking gun.
Yeah, there's no smoking gun, and I don't know. There's absolutely no smoke anywhere near Joe Biden. There may be smoke near Hunter Biden, and if there is, and if he's guilty of something, then he should face justice. But the central allegation of influence peddling that they were essentially selling not just access to Biden when he was vice president, but the suggestion that he was taking some actions favorable to people who were giving money to other members of the family or who were employing other members of the family is completely. There is absolutely not a shred of evidence, as Fox and Friends pointed out. If you've lost Fox and Friends, you really got nothing, and because there's actually nothing there. We saw the Durham investigation, which was an embarrassment. This Comer investigation so far is a very deep embarrassment. They're going to keep digging this hole. First rule of holes is, when you're in one, stop digging. But they're going to keep digging, and they're not going to really find anything because it's not the Biden crime family. It's Joe Biden has been a public servant for half a century. We've been watching him. We know him. We see him. You can criticize him on a lot of levels if you want to politically, but this is just there's just nothing there.